Welcome, endurance enthusiasts. I'm your host, Bruna.
And I'm your host, Fabi. You're tuning into Human Endurance, the podcast where we aim to inspire you with stories of achievement, motivation, and self fulfillment.
We'll connect you with humans pushing boundaries, breaking barriers, and discovering the joy of endurance sports.
Join us on this journey of self reflection and personal growth. Let's go the distance together. Brian, welcome to the Human Endurance Podcast. We are thrilled to have you on with us today.
Welcome, Brian.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to talk with you both.
Yeah, we're excited as well. Excited to have a running coach again on the podcast. It's been a while. So you are a running coach originally from New York, but you are now based in London. Can you tell us a bit about your journey into running and becoming a running coach?
Absolutely. So I've been running for about 15 years. I started in college. I got into it actually through swimming via triathlon and then into running. And I kind of jumped straight into marathons. I skipped every distance, what exactly you're not supposed to do. And I kind of stumbled my way through, 10 plus marathons before I really started taking the sport seriously and start kind of working on the nuances of the sport. So from there, I started coaching on the side to help myself and help my running and to help, some friends. And in 2021, it got to the point where I had enough people asking me for coaching that I decided to launch my own company. And that's when I launched Great Day. And so I launched as a virtual coaching platform in New York. And since then, I've coached runners, pretty much all over the world. I've had runners in Berlin, the UK, Israel, kind of all over the place. And it has been just so cool to work with so many different runners. So I definitely focus on the marathon and I work a lot with, busy professionals all over the world who are looking to make marathons kind of a sustainable practice in their lives. It's definitely a sport that attracts very high achieving people. And so figuring out how to fit that in with already intense lifestyles is kind of one of the more interesting things that I work with. So that's kind of how I started coaching and how I started with Great Day.
That's amazing. I actually didn't know that you were a triathlete in the beginning and then moved to running. So that's really cool to hear.
That's my deep dark secret. Someday the triathlete in me will come back into fruition.
Running is better, right?
Yes.
And so I think one thing also you forget to mention is that you yourself are a super fast marathoner. I think your PB at the marathon is 2 hours, 44 minutes, right? And for the half, 1 hour, 18.
Yes, exactly. So as we were talking about before we started recording, I just got a stress fracture, so I'm going to be out for my next PR attempt, but we'll be back. We'll be back soon enough.
Always. I can relate. We always come back stronger, so I'm sure that'll be the case with you. Let's dive into your basically your approach as a coach. And so we know that for you, like part of your job is to help a lot of people to run the marathon, right? You mentioned like that's usually most of the clients that you get. And one of the things that you do is really helping athletes to identify what getting good looks like to them. Can you tell us of what that means beyond just finishing times?
Absolutely. So many athletes, when they come into this sport, they only hear about times and they want to get faster. And part of my job as a coach is to create sustainable running habits that will take these athletes so much further than the finish line. So in addition to finish times, which is always, a great nebulous goal for athletes to have, I always take a huge emphasis with finding goals in the in between. What does training look like to you? If you fail at the time, what does success look like in other ways? For some people, it's proving to themselves they can. For some people, it's finding structure in their life and For others, it's working through other challenges, family issues, gender issues, anything like that. There are so many smaller victories along the way. And that's what I try to emphasize with my clients, that it's always more than the miles you're running. And it can be so much more. So I like to take an approach where we're looking at kind of the entire athlete's life.
That's really cool. I really resonate with that, especially when you said the part about kind of supporting athletes to find their structure, which can be one of the goals. Honestly, to me, that's one of the key things that sport has always brought me is this, kind of like ability to plan out my things, make sure my schedules are right, creating the right habits that make me happier and more energized and more productive in running and mostly outside of running as well. So it's really good to see. I think it's a good mindset for people to not just focus on, okay, I want to go to this marathon, run below 4 hours, 3 hours, etc., and think really beyond that. That's really cool.
And I guess to adding to that point as well, just knowing from a personal experience, but also from a lot of friends that started with their first marathon, often people say, I just want to do one marathon. I want to, break 4 hours, and then I'm done with it. But what I've seen is people are then getting hooked, and then there's the next one and the next one. So I guess you shouldn't always just think about this is the big race, but really that it's slowly over time it's becoming part of a lifestyle running, right?
Absolutely. And every runner, I think, who has finished a marathon, their first or even second marathon, will say, I could have done this a little better. I could have done that a little better. And so then it's finding the nuance in training that becomes so exciting. So that's why I love working with runners who have done a few marathons, because it becomes so much more in the minutia.
Yeah. Let's talk about mistakes. I think that's a really fun topic. What are the most common mistakes that you see new marathon runners commit in their training or mindset?
Oh, well, the first one I see all the time with new marathoners is there's a whole camp of runners who come into marathon saying, I'm going to give it everything I got. I am here. I am dedicated. And I think it's a wonderful mindset. Once they get into training, they're like, oh, this is really hard. This is really hard. You look on social media and it looks like every single person runs a marathon and it looks so easy. So I think a lot of runners, the first mistake is they come into this sport without a respect for the distance and for how difficult it is. And of course, for so many, you kind of have to figure that out on your own. So I think kind of a respect for the distance and how difficult training is, especially when we talk about athletes who are typically high earners. They're doing well in their careers. They have a big social life. They are not used to, feeling like the new kid on the block. So I think taking the time and the patience to realize, no, this is a process of building, and endurance is built over the long term. It doesn't come to you just like that. So when everything is completely new to somebody, I think the first thing to think of is it's going to take time. It's going to take time. And the other thing is people will ask, what should I be doing more for recovery? What should I be eating? What should I be doing? Which are all great questions. What more can I be doing? And the answer I almost always have for new runners is be more consistent in your training. Show up for your runs, do your runs. People will be asking, what massages should I be getting when they're not hitting, their weekly runs? And, so it's kind of realizing that like running is extremely basic. It's extremely basic when you first approach it, and you need to focus on the basics, no matter how advanced you are.
Yeah, I completely agree. So would you then say, because you said running is difficult, what makes it difficult in your eye? Is it in the beginning to be used to having this consistency in your training, or is it something else?
It's a lot of things. It's the consistency. It's the fact that, when you go on vacation and you're off from work, your training isn't off from work. It's the fact that it's high impact on your body. It's the fact that to get better requires more time. It's especially over the long term, we've seen that higher volume tends to contribute the most to faster running times. That's more time you are spending. So, in addition to doing all of the small things, the more you run, the more is required of you to take care of yourself. So I think that's what one of the first things I think about is really hard. Like it's just more times on the road, it's more times being with yourself. And it's really hard to be this intuitive with your body and know when you're pushing too hard, what's good pain, what's bad pain. And
Yeah.
it takes a lot of self-discovery in order to get that, which a lot of people don't realize when they first sign up for the marathon.
Yeah, I agree, and I want to ask you a question also about whether you encounter a lot of people that think running is a quick gain, because like you mentioned, it's a year long, if not lifelong pursuit, right? You're getting better over time, you're getting faster. There's rarely people that get fast within 1 year. Maybe they're super talented. Speaking for myself, I've been running for like 8 years, consistently, without really having breaks. Of course, I got injured along the way, but I really, was doing my trainings over time. And I'm fast now. And I do get a lot of messages from people on Instagram asking me, hey, how do you manage to be that fast? And then I ask them, how long have you been running? And they say, oh, a year. So I tell them, hey, just takes time. It didn't happen overnight. So how do you see that? Do you see a lot of people just wanting this quick, these quick improvements?
Absolutely. I see a lot of people who want the quick improvements are, again, it's the people that v- discover running through social media, which is an amazing, powerful force, but it tends to be more of a highlight reel of how cool people look while running. And so I think exactly that. People see the progress really quickly in other people and they want that. So yeah, that's what I keep telling all of my athletes. This is a long-term gain. Like as long as you're alive, you can increase your endurance. And that's what we're here to do, be endurance athletes. So this is, as you said, a lifelong pursuit. And nothing in this sport comes easy. It's all that time in working, and we love it for that. If it's the classic, if marathons were easy, everybody would do it. There's a reason it's such a coveted distance, especially.
Yeah, we had a guest on the podcast, Hans Troyer. He's a professional trail runner. Maybe you've heard of him. He's a very up and coming, and he said something like, "Yeah, fitness is built in years. I think he said months and years, and not weeks and months." So I think that's probably the message we want to leave the listeners here with, like, consistency over time, and no massages can beat that.
Yes, and it's also beginner runners when you're first starting out, you'll see a lot of progress really quickly, and then of course it tapers off. You can't make these huge gains, that quickly. So sometimes I think people feel the rush of like, oh, I PR'd every 5K I've been in this year,
Yeah.
and then it starts to get a little harder, and we say, okay, that's because you're expanding your limits. So that's something people forget as well.
So I want to dive back a bit more into your own journey. And first of all, I want to ask you what makes you so passionate about running? Because speaking to you now, I can just tell, your passion all over. First, like this question, and then as a follow-up question, I want to understand what, if you can share some things in your running journey that changed how you approach training your athletes.
Absolutely. So we're gonna get into the weeds right away. I love it. Running was the first place I felt confident in my own body. It was the first place I could develop confidence in myself. I came out as gay at 15 years old, and it wasn't until I discovered running around 18 that I found an outlet where I felt like I could be creative in a way, could be myself. With my first 20-mile run, I remember thinking, how incredible is it that I get to spend 20 miles kind of in my own head talking about how incredible I am for doing this. You know, it was the first time that I allowed myself to say, whoa, you just ran this distance for the first time in your life, and you are the only one who was here to clap for you. And I'm sure as hell going to clap for myself. And so it was the first place that I really felt comfortable with who I am. And it kind of built my confidence to take on, relationships and to take on career things. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it for people for a long term perspective, because this sport has the ability to change how you view yourself and in turn how you show up for the people around you. And I think it's especially true in running because it's a commitment. There's no shortcuts. And you get out of it what you put into it. And I think that's why it's such a powerful thing for my athletes. Like the first time I took 10 marathons before I ever decided to try to go for speed, right? Because there was something scary that I was like, okay, I've done the marathon, I've done it a million times. What happens if I actually start betting on myself? What happens when I really put myself out there for a goal? And it changed my entire life. I said, oh, even if I don't get there, like it's okay to take a risk on yourself. It's okay to bet on yourself. And that's what I try to instill in my athletes, that you can't blame somebody for trying. And as long as you are trying to push your boundaries, that is the important part. It's not about the finish time. It's not about how cool you look on social media. It truly is about the transformation that happens on these runs. And so that's what I try to bring out in people. It is not limited to times by any means.
That's very beautiful and very touching. Really nice. So it's really like running is bigger than almost yourself. It really can transform people's life in a very simple way, right? Just by basically running and doing training.
And Brian, you mentioned already a little bit, we touched on this, on the difficulty of keeping consistency with running. And I think a lot of that comes from the difficulty in making sustainable lifestyle changes. How do you as a coach guide runners to be able to do that?
It's always an individual process. Everybody comes to this sport having had a life before running or before marathon training. And so the question is, how do we make this work for some people? Some people are looking for the excuse to say no on Friday nights to get out for a long run. Some people, that was me. I was like, oh, once I realized that having a long run in the morning was an excuse for not staying out late, I was like, I'm sold. Some people need that. Some people feel like they need to have, Friday night with their friends to, decompress or whatever it is. So it's always a very individual process of figuring out how running fits in for a person, what they're willing to put in and what they want to get out. And that's a balancing act. If you say, first marathon, I want to Boston qualify, I'm all in, you say, well, that's going to take a lot from your life. That is going to be not take away from your life, but it's going to be putting your time into different buckets. And that's what I see doubt start creeping in training a lot when people are like, oh, I understand. I don't have the energy for other things in my life when, you're starting to hit those longer miles. So some ways we work on this for clients. It's first of all, meeting them where they are. If they are somebody who is working out 3 days a week and they say, I want to run a marathon, I say the first thing I do is say, okay, well, it's going to be 5 days a week. So we need to figure out a structure that is going to be not necessarily running. We have runners who do 4 days a week as well, but you're going to be lifting on one of those days. Like, how do we develop the habit that you are going to show up for yourself every morning before work? How are we going to do that? I have a client who was really struggling for her first marathon, getting in her 4 runs per week. And we realized what the issue was it wasn't the wake up time. It was that she was doom scrolling for 2 hours before she went to bed,
Oh my
which
God.
is 2 hours every night, every night. So I said, we're not changing anything with your training plan. What we are going to do is set an alarm for 9 p.m. that says your phone is going away. And that's the only habit we're going to focus on. And for 3 weeks, all we did was check in. Are you putting your phone away at 9 p.m.? That's the only thing that mattered. And guess what? The running became a lot easier.
Sometimes it's the most basic things, really.
Crazy. Okay. But I can already see that you are really taking also a step beyond running to really help people. You know, you're not just giving the plan and guiding them on the plan, but you're also guiding them in a bit further parts of their life to help them achieve this plan. So really an all-around coach in a way.
Yeah, I find that run coaching often becomes life coaching in so many ways. And obviously, a run coach is not a therapist, and I don't want to ever get that confused. But a lot of times, what my job as a coach is just to reflect back the problems that people are facing. Say, oh, I really want to feel more disciplined and more structured, but I have to get drinks on Friday night. And I have to say, okay, do you see how you want the long run on Saturday and you want the drinks on Friday night? Do we see how we're gonna have to figure this out? And so a lot of times it's just bringing it to the surface. It's really hard to see in yourself sometimes.
Yeah, I I'm a bit like you. I actually like to have the long run or the long bike because often I need to, for as a triathlete I need to do long stuff on the weekend on both days. So I actually like to take that as an excuse sometimes to, I'm out with staying up too late. So I actually really like that. Also a bit actually for myself because I think I would be easily tempted to just I have nothing, let me stay late, and now I have this also for myself to tame myself in a way. So I really feel that. I have another question about the motivation because I do see a lot of people struggling with that consistency part. I also think often people kind of want to do a race, but they say they want it, but you don't see it in the training. So how do you approach that? I'm sure you have clients like that where they really say they want to do this race, but the plan or like how they implement or deliver the plan doesn't reflect that. How do you approach that?
That's a great question. It's a very common one because it's very easy to say you want the outcome. It's not so easy to say you want the work that it comes from. And so a lot of it is figuring out what makes running enjoyable for people. And you have to meet runners where they are. So sometimes I have runners that say, okay, you're not allowed to listen to your favorite podcast until it's in your ears on a run. And then they start to associate, like, oh, this is my time when I get to listen to my podcast. Some runners, like me, I am a chatterbox. I could talk all day. And so for an athlete, if I were coaching myself, the second motivation wanes, it's go run with a group, go run with friends, make a running date. And those don't even feel like miles to me. So when I'm really struggling, for me, it's go run with a group. So it's really meeting athletes where they are and seeing what makes it enjoyable. Is it new routes? Is it exploring different parts of the city? Is it uh, journaling after? Some people really are inspired by the time. I have one client who, once we started doing the runs, and then she would sit down and kind of use that as a way to facilitate creativity. She started to see the benefit of running beyond just, the health of it all and the work she has to do. She started seeing how it was transforming her mind in the moment. So we kind of channeled that into a creative outlet. So it really gets creative for a lot of these solutions.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I hope you can share with us later. Maybe you've written a blog post about it, like all the ideas you have for how to find, like how to make running fit your routine. But when you're speaking, something else came to mind. Like, I think one thing I struggle as a coach sometimes is when my athletes get really focused on times and paces and, not hitting a certain pace, or hey, like they just get frustrated with the workout And, you know, I have been recently moving towards an approach where I'm asking athletes more to focus on their efforts rather than pace. So really to say, okay, did you push to this level? That's good enough. Have you encountered this on your coaching, and what have you done with regards to this, or what do you do in general when you see athletes that are just like getting too focused on pace?
Yeah, pace can be such a motivator and such a demotivator depending on where you are in life and how training is going. I have one client I'm thinking of, Finn, who was going through something similar that I was just going through, which is he just moved to a different city and was in the middle of training for the Chicago Marathon. And things just like weren't clicking. The workouts were all felt hard. The long runs felt hard. So every single thing became a range. It became a range of perceived effort. It became a range of times. It became a range of distance, with all within reason. And what we found is switching from time to effort. It's like I would say we would do a threshold run, and I would tell him to cover up his watch. He's not allowed to look during the on sessions, and just go by what feels like a threshold to you. What feels like we're kind of riding that line. And what we discovered is, shocker of all shockers, he would take off his sticker on the watch and be like, oh, that was really, really close to my times.
Nice.
So it's a lot of, again, the athletes I work with were all professionals in their fields. They're all people very dedicated to their careers. They have busy social lives. The pressure of doing well, it weighs on you if you feel like you're constantly failing. So my job as a coach is to flip the script on what failure and success means, and try to define it in a way where I feel like they can feel successful. Because oftentimes it's the feel of success and feel of like you're in the right pace zones than actually hitting it. So it's just kind of adjusting and adapting as we go.
I love that. I think that's also a good segue to the next part, where I want to talk about some statement you made about a soft approach to hard goals, and I think that goes a bit in this direction, what you just mentioned. Can you talk a bit more about what you mean with this soft approach to tackling ambitious goals? How do you do that with your athletes?
It's an interesting concept, because I find that a lot of these athletes, you want to work hard, you want to train hard, and you want to feel intense in a way. And oftentimes people feel like when they have a faraway goal that they need to fight tooth and nail for it, which you do. You do. If you have a large, looming, ambitious goal, you have to fight. Fighting looks different for different people. And I have found the typical masculine energy of going harder, feeling more serious, more dialed in, that doesn't work for most people, including a lot of the men I coach, who that's the kind of approach. Like, we're going to double down and tackle this, and we're going to work harder than ever. You can do that. You can do that while laughing. We all know that, right? You can smile while training. And so I think it's about realizing that none of this is serious. This is all for fun. So how do we do this in a way? How do we go after our goals in a way that makes us happy, makes us want to continue training, makes us want to get to the end of that marathon and say, damn, I'm going to sign up for another one. Let's go. And so the softness comes from, number one, being kind to yourself and realizing where you are as an athlete, having the humility and the grace to know that no matter where I am, I have a long way to go. And I think that humility is a huge part of it. And I think oftentimes runners, they forget that this is all really difficult. So oftentimes I hear the narrative that, I don't know why, this should be easier. I should be able to do this. And say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oftentimes that's when runners try to double down. When things aren't going right, they say, okay, let's double down. But think about it like this, like in a marathon, if you're running too hot at mile 16 and you're pushing the pace a little too fast, the best way to have your best time possible isn't by doubling down at mile 16. It's about slightly backing off the pace, collecting yourself until maybe you get out of that rough patch and you can push it further. So that's what I'm trying to do. Say, okay, let's not double down. Let's ease off the gas, collect ourselves, compose ourselves, and then attack it.
Okay, got it. But I want to challenge you a bit on that, on the soft approach to hard goals, because how do you then do that when, especially for like interval sessions, you know, where you kind of need to be like, okay, this is gonna be hard. I need to hit those, or I want to hit those paces, and I don't want to, you know, during the interval be like, oh, you know, let me slow down a bit. I'm tired. You know, those things that creep up in your head when you're pushing. Like, how do you find the balance of being a bit like dialed in versus not being too hard on yourself?
It's really hard and it's really nuanced. And this is why I think people forget, as my earlier point, running is really hard. If you're asking to do an interval session that is pushing your fitness, it should be hard. So oftentimes it's, you know, a lot of the runners I get and a lot of runners in general are people that are typically, you know, not afraid of chasing hard goals. A lot of the runners I work with, you know, have chased many hard goals in the past. So it's about trying your best and realizing that you can't do better than your best. So at some point you do have to say, this is what I got today. This is the best I could do, or it's adjusting. It's adjusting the paces. And I think that a lot of runners are really hard on themselves when interval sessions go. You have to be dialed in to really nail an interval session. You can be dialed in wanting to do it, but it's how you respond. It's how you respond to your times. If they're fading, okay, what's going on? Let's adjust. And I think taking a logical approach, I find interval trainings and workouts in that regard to be very analytical. And sometimes it's better to let the mind do the judgment as opposed to the emotional side of things. Because you can say, okay, I don't feel good. That's a data fact today. And also, I am not hitting these paces. What are we going to do about that? And this is something I always talk about to runners about, especially in speed work. What is the point of this session? What are we trying to achieve here? Sometimes if it's a progression run, let's say, the idea isn't necessarily the paces, it's picking up the pace on tired legs. Can we do that based on how you're feeling today? So it's taking what the workout is supposed to be doing and just kind of easing off the pressure a little bit to enable your best performance.
Yeah, I think it's a really good and interesting question you asked, Fabian. I'm trying to like reason here for myself how I see this as well. And I think that a lot of times, like, I think there is a place, like there is definitely a time and place to have this masculine energy to like strive and go harder and try to push yourself. But actually, if you think about it, in the big picture of running, if you don't hit certain paces at certain sessions, it doesn't really matter as long as you show up every day and then you are consistent and you are progressing over time, right? Like years and months and not weeks and months. It's not a single workout that would change everything.
Yeah, that's correct. And often I would, even if I would not fully hit my intervals, I would be like, unless I would think, is there a specific reason why it happened? No, then just think about tomorrow, the next session, be able to do that. Yeah. I would love to hear an example from you, from one of your athletes, where you saw that how this soft approach to hard goals really, showed its impact. And if you could share a story that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. One of the things that will happen in endurance sports is injury. And I have found, I'm thinking of one of my clients, Drew, who recently got injured. He had a hip thing that kind of took him out for a while. And this is one of the hardest places to be kind to yourself as a runner. We all know the injury spiral that comes with it. But here's my thought. So he ended up having to defer from Chicago, which is awful. And just like the heartbreak, especially when training is going so, so well. And so what I keep reminding him is Chicago was the goal. We have bigger fish to fry down the road. He had some of his best fitness he has ever had in his life. And then he got injured a few weeks before Chicago. And it happens when you're pushing yourself this hard. You know, you run through a pain a little bit too much. And so how we're framing this is, okay, Chicago's not happening. We have bigger goals to go against. And what can we do now to support that? And that's when the soft approach comes into hand. It comes into, oh, let's think about this in maybe not even a positive way, but some way that is going to make me want to go after it next time. Again, these are all long-term goals. So it's not about the run right in front of you necessarily. It's about enjoying things enough that you continuously want to go after it. So right now, the work we're doing is a lot of, okay, let's do the physical therapy. Let's do the recovery. Let's work on strength right now. Let's do all the things that will make you come back stronger. And let's talk about it in a way that reframes this into a positive and into a way that you feel better about going after a goal. Because if you're going to be, if you're, he could easily be like, you know what? I worked so hard for this. I'm done. I'm done with this sport. I'm done with training. And that's what we want to avoid. So it's bringing out the softness in the injury that's like, okay, your body didn't like what we're doing. That's going to act as data for the next training cycle. So let's take it easy because clearly there are many signs that we need to slow things down. So it's often a reframing of how you respond to how training is going and taking it easy with yourself.
Yeah, I think that resonates with Bruna, right? Having two injuries and really.
If you're not gonna be soft on yourself, it's gonna be hard. So, Brian, we also know that you're super active in building running communities. I don't know exactly if you're doing that already, since you just recently moved to London, but we know that you ran the club Great Day in New York. Can you tell us a bit what was your goal there and what was this experience like?
I love my club in New York so much, and I miss them so much. So we started off with a few years ago, I think 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more now. I started a run called the Gay Bar Fun Run. And this was a run just like it sounds. You meet at a gay bar, you go for a run, and then you just hang out at the bar after. A very simple concept. And this club has grown. We are now in Boston, Massachusetts. We also have special partnerships with certain different recovery studios. We just had a sauna cold plunge event last night. So it's really expanded into doing fun, creative events for runners. And it was so important for me to create a space in New York for gay runners and kind of a different, unique experience for them. What I have found with hosting it, so I'm somebody who doesn't drink at all, and clearly I am not a nightlife person. So what I found about this run is it is a perfect opportunity to meet right in the middle. The Gay Bar Fun Run invites a lot of people who have never run before. It's a lot of gay people who are like, I'm curious about running. I know a gay bar. I'm comfortable around a gay bar. The running I'm uncomfortable with. And then you have a lot of runners who are like, I need to socialize and stop running by myself. A gay bar, a perfect opportunity. So it really meets people kind of where they are and allows community in like a very interesting way. You know, you have some serious runners, you have some serious non-runners as well. And I think it's important that we create, just different spaces and different communities especially for gay people and queer people that allow you to build community in different ways. I think it makes for a very vibrant experience. I think it makes it a lot more interesting. And so that's why I love my run club in New York. We might be expanding to London. Who we'll think about it. I need more than 8 weeks here to figure out the logistics.
I love
But yeah, I love the community aspect of Great Day.
I love the concept. It's really cool. You're meeting people that, or people have the ability to meet that might not meet otherwise. Like you said, they're meeting in the middle. So that's really cool. If I'm ever in New York, I really wanna give it a go. I'm wondering also if you ever were running to Cubby Hole in New York. You know, the bar, because that's where Bruna and I kissed for the first time.
That is so sweet. We do not have a Cubby Hole run yet, but I think we might need to. The inaugural one, you two have to fly out for it.
Sounds perfect. For the listeners, Cubby Hole is like this epic lesbian bar in New York City. So, yeah, we should do
amazing.
that special event. It would be awesome to do something like this in Zurich as well. We definitely miss gay community and running community as well. I mean, there are different flavors of running community.
Yeah, we
but
could
definitely
do-
not the LGBT.
But I'm not aware of any like queer, gay, LGBTQ plus running activities. So that could be an interesting thing to do.
Yeah.
We're going international. I love it.
Nice. And what have you seen so far since you just moved to London about the running communities in the city?
London is a running town. Everybody is a runner here, and it's so cool to see that it's kind of parallel. It's like a parallel universe to what I'm used to in New York. So many run clubs. It definitely operates, it operates a little bit differently in that it's a little bit, I found it's a little bit harder to find the performance-based clubs, which is I view as a good thing. New York tends to be a very competitive place in general, and that seeps out into the running culture a lot. Very, very competitive in certain areas. So I just think London has so many great running clubs, running opportunities, but I do think there's room to grow. I think there's so many people here that want to be part of a club. They join, there's these massive, you've seen the 300-person run clubs, which are great, but I think there's also a need for smaller run crews. And that's kind of what I started the Great Day Run Club with, the idea that nobody wants to show up. At least I don't want to show up to a group of 300 people. That is so intimidating to me. So I just think there's a lot of space here to continue that and grow.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I lived in London 2023 and I just Googled some kind of running club so I could meet some people because I didn't know anybody in the city. And I ended up doing London Track Club a few times, which we met at Battersea Park at the track there. That was kind of fun. I mean, the one thing that I always struggled with was, how do I fit running clubs into my own training? Because we were meeting at the track to do a particular workout. And I was always kind of like in this tension of, do I go and run with people, which is really nice, and I just do their workout, or do I follow my plan and I go and train alone? And eventually I ended up doing the training mostly alone again because I didn't know how to do it. Have you ever figured out how to make this work for people?
It's really difficult. It's really, you're absolutely right. You can have a track club that you go to and it might not align with your plan. I have found with certain athletes are only going to do their speed work if it's with a group. That is the only time they're doing it. And I say, let's leverage that. Let's leverage that. I'd rather have you doing, maybe a little too fast intervals later in your marathon training at a lower volume than I would normally like, but like, let's do it. Other runners I have actually, which is kind of funny, I'll have them send me their group speed work in addition to me in advance, and then I'll modify. I say, okay, you're ending with 800s. We're gonna beef that up. We're just gonna add 3 more reps to the end of that. So it's like they're able to run with the group, but they can also modify it to fit them. And again, I have a lot of ideas in London for creating marathon specific running teams based on estimated finish time. I think
That's
one of the most
cool.
powerful thing you yeah, one of the most powerful things you can do in your training is to find people who are just a hair faster than you
Yeah.
and doing similar workouts. And so that is an idea I have here. That's the most I'll say until I launch this idea. But I do
Nice.
think facilitating running with people around your pace is a
Yeah.
huge benefit.
But let's go to the one of the final sections of the podcast. I want to talk a bit more about being queer in running. We already talked a bit about it before you touched on it. What as a queer running coach and founder, have you personally faced challenges or seen it in the community?
Absolutely. I mean, starting off, I mean, years ago, things are definitely different now for the youth of New York, especially. But I just remember like the reason I never was in athletics as a kid was the fact that I was gay and the fact that the culture of sports just was not inviting to me. And just by being in those spaces kind of endangered me. And so a lot of creating a queer run club and a queer running service and having a queer coach is being the coach that I wish I had. And so much of coaching is personal. And so much of it is about connecting with athletes. And as queer people, it's often you want to talk to the queer person, the one who gets your experiences, and you feel more comfortable. So I found working with a lot of gay athletes by by sharing that identity, it allows us to go a little bit deeper in the coaching, in the transformation. And that's why I think it's just so important for runners to realize that their identity and who they are, and this goes for all runners, understanding yourself, what motivates you, what makes you tick, what your insecurities are, that all can be used as fuel to better yourself in some way. And so my job as a queer run coach is to connect with queer runners where they are on a deeper level so they can, become the best versions of themselves and they can go out and be that for somebody else. So I just think it's, when you focus on a specific community and the people that are closest to you, it allows you to make an impact, with the people closest to you. And I think that's, it's a beautiful thing. And I think we need a lot more of it because we are getting a lot more queer people into sports, into running. People, as the culture becomes a little bit more accepting, depending on where you are in the world, we're finding a lot of people who said, I never was an athlete. Gay people who are like, I was never an athlete growing up. Now I feel like since this is a solo sport, I can get into it. And that's why I just want to encourage more people to join because it's great and there's so much community to be built and to be found through the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian, what do you think coaches who are not queer, what should they know about the queer community so that they can become good coaches if they have a queer athlete? Tough
That is
question,
an
but
that is a tough question. I think first of all that queer people we are very, how do we say this? There's a lot of survival instincts that come with being queer. And I think it's really important for coaches to recognize in queer athletes when those survival instincts are not serving them. So, for instance, a lot of, you know, I learned about myself that I have my survival instinct in being queer has always been to as you can tell, slap a giant smile on, pretend everything is fine. And so I think it's the job of a coach to really understand that, like, to see past survival instincts of saying, like, okay, I can tell something's not where it usually is. Your words don't match your performance. What's going on here? So I think that's important. And then I think also recognizing that queer people have been through harder things than a marathon in their life. many of us have done much harder things. So when a run goes poorly or the training isn't going as you would expect, it's important to remember that this is likely not a person who is like giving up because it's hard. You know, we've all done very hard things. We've done harder things. So I think it's important to remember that's when I go back to the soft approach to hard things is that I found with queer athletes, oftentimes it's a hug, not telling them to go out and work harder. It's that kind of support and making them feel safe that just goes so far. And
Yeah.
that sounds so cheesy and so corny, but it's absolutely true. I would never admit that in myself, but like when I'm doing bad, I need a hug and being told I'm okay the way I am because oftentimes it goes into, I need to be better. I need to fix this about myself. And so for non-queer athletes or for coaches, it's important to recognize that that might be going on behind the scene. It's very common.
Yeah, safety is a key word, isn't it? I think we've all at some point, to different levels, of course, everybody has their own experience, but I think everybody has felt at least maybe safety depends, but like insecure, definitely and for sure, I think for everyone. So I think, yeah, I think for coaches to realize that this can be slightly different for queer people or maybe minorities in general that just have to maybe sometimes, do more to be heard or to be seen. That's a very interesting point.
Yeah, I also feel like, especially if you want to join a community and, you want to feel accepted, like it's hard to enter a sport because I also didn't grow up as an athlete. I got into running later on and I always was a bit insecure because I felt everybody's good at this except for me. So you want to be welcomed and feel safe to not be good at the beginning, and but you're intimidated because then you see all those people with those nice shoes and these nice outfits and you're just having the pants you see in the closet, and then obviously over time now I also look probably intimidating, but that was me like 10 years ago because I yeah, you have to start somewhere.
Absolutely. And I think belonging is the key word. This is in sports in general is not the first place I know a lot of gay people like myself feel welcomed. And so just feeling like you belong. And so much of my job as a coach with a lot of runners who run by themselves too is their kind of gateway into the running world and the running community and what's going on. And so I try to make them feel like that they're a part of this too. Even if you're running on your own, you're a part of this group of people. So that belonging I think is key.
Yeah, for sure. Brian, is there anything we should have asked you today that we did? Is there a key thing that you want to share with listeners?
Yeah, I would say the key thing that I would love to leave with listeners is that this sport is hard and it doesn't mean it's not worth it. It's the process of going through chasing those goals, which is going to make you a better person. And that's what I want to leave with people, especially, I'm going through an injury right now. I'm going through a hard time in my running. And I just have to remember that, there's a different season for everything in life. And it's okay to be soft with yourself, to come back stronger. So just remember that there's also so many ways to be a runner. And so defining success by your own standards is going to keep you in the sport a lot longer and make you a much happier person.
Really nice ending note. Thanks a lot. But we're not fully done yet. So we have some fire questions for you, which is basically questions that you should just answer in a one sentence.
Don't think too long.
Yeah, don't think too long. There's no right or wrong answer.
All right.
Cool. So favorite run workout?
I have to say 16 by 400. Let's make it fast. Let's make it fun. Let's make it at the beginning of the season. Yeah.
You're crazy. I like it. Favorite race?
Boston Marathon, hands down. I was born in Boston. I was born at the start line, actually.
Oh, no way.
there's a apartment complex directly next to the start line. That's where my mom lived. She went into labor with me at the start of the Boston Marathon in 1992. So I have a lot of personal history there. It's where my PR is, and I love it.
That's
You're
great.
meant to be a runner.
Yes.
Nice. Also at the start, so it's kind of outside of Boston, right? Then
Hopkinton. Yes.
yeah, nice. Cool. What's your favorite training running route in New York?
Ooh, in New York, that's a great question. I'm not going to say Central Park because that is the go-to for everybody. I think Hunters Point in Long Island City in Queens. Unless you're in Queens, you probably haven't run there. It is the most beautiful view of the city, and it's so well maintained, and it's way calmer than the rest of New York. So Hunters Point, definitely check it out.
Awesome. Same question, but for London. Have you found your favorite route yet?
Hackney Marshes. Oh my goodness. The fact that you can be in London and go into a forest. This is so novel for me. In New York, we don't have that. So I would definitely say Hackney Marshes. The nature there is incredible.
Yeah, London is amazing for running. Oh my gosh. I was super excited when I was there. So many parks.
It is nice. It's very nice. Do you have a running idol, somebody you really look up to in the running scene community?
Oh, that's a good one. I think Nikki Hiltz is a really good example of a queer person doing insane things. They just, what, came in third in the 1500? Third, fourth, fifth, something like that. Nikki Hiltz is just a great like ambassador for the sport.
Amazing.
What's your favorite pre-race fuel?
Pre-race fuel. We are going toast, banana, honey, and then I'm a bro for admitting that I drink this, but the Nick Bear Go One More carb mix. I gotta say, nothing but respect for that carb mix. I think it's incredible.
Yeah. Okay.
Good to know.
That's funny. That I have to try. I'm always in to try new things. What is your favorite gel?
I am a precision girly. I love precision, caffeinated or non. That's my go-to. And they
Nice.
also have 90-gram carb pouches. So you can have a pouch of 90 grams, and I'm just obsessed with it. I love it.
I have it in the other room. I use it for cycling. It's just like you can take it like this.
It's like a bag. It's like a bag of gel.
We have a whole cabinet of gels. It's actually kind of crazy.
Yeah, I can recommend for you if you also like to try new things. Ministry is a German brand. They use it in cycling a lot. They have this mango gel, which I'm always like looking forward to when I can eat it because it's so tasty.
Oh, okay, that's tough for a gel. I'll definitely check that out.
We share with you afterwards. All right, last question. What's your favorite post-race food?
You know, I never eat this outside of just running a race, but a cheeseburger is like there's nothing hits like a cheeseburger. And I'm talking a pub burger. I want it to be thick, I want it to be greasy, I want it to be stacked with bacon and vegetables, but the bigger the burger, the better.
Nice.
Fair enough. I actually also like that after a really tough race, and I don't really eat burgers either.
Cool. That was it. Thank you so much for joining. It was really, really nice. Thanks for being on.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Human Endurance. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. If you like the show, don't forget to rate it and hit the subscribe button whatever you're listening to it. This helps us to reach a bigger audience. Thank you and see you next time.